Hello everyone, and welcome back. Over the past several videos, we've explored what leadership is, the traits of effective leaders, and two influential leadership styles, charismatic and transformational leadership. Now we're going to answer a different question. What happens when leadership is tested? It's easy to talk about leadership when everything is going well. It's much harder to lead when information is incomplete, emotions are high, the public is watching, and every decision carries significant consequences. And that really, it's the reality of criminal justice leadership. Whether you're supervising officers, managing a correctional facility, leading an investigative team, or serving in another public safety role, you'll eventually encounter situations where there isn't a perfect answer. Today's lecture is about making the best ethical decision possible under difficult circumstances. Today's lesson directly supports two of our course learning outcomes. First, we'll evaluate how ethical leadership promotes public trust and strengthens criminal justice organizations. Second, we'll examine how leaders make decisions during high-stress incidents, such as use of force situations and other critical events. As we go through today's lesson, remember this. Leadership is not measured by how leaders perform when everything is easy. Leadership is measured by how they respond when everything becomes difficult. So, why leadership decisions matter? Every decision a leader makes affects someone. It affects officers, victims, suspects, families, community members, the law enforcement organization as a whole. Sometimes those decisions affect public confidence for years. One thing I've learned through leadership roles in education and public service is that leaders rarely have the luxury of making decisions that make everybody happy. Sometimes every available option has disadvantages. The responsibility of leadership isn't finding the perfect answer. It's finding the most ethical, lawful, and responsible answer with the information available. And that's a very important distinction. So, decision-making under pressure. One of the biggest challenges in criminal justice is that leaders often make decisions under extraordinary pressure. Imagine responding to an officer-involved shooting, or an active shooter, or a disturbance in the jail. What if there was a major wildfire requiring evacuations, or a high-profile homicide investigation? People expect immediate answers, but immediate answers aren't always possible. One lesson I've learned throughout my career is that pressure creates urgency, but urgency should never replace good judgment. Good leaders remain calm, they gather facts, they avoid assumptions, and they resist making decisions based solely on emotion or public pressure. So, ethical decision making. When leaders face difficult choices, I encourage using a simple series of questions. I actually had a boss that used to tell me this at the police department. As long as it is legal and it is ethical, we're going to do it. I would add in there, is it fair? And does it align with our organization's mission and value statement? Could I confidently explain this decision to my employees, my community, or even in a courtroom if I had to? Those questions don't always make the decision easy, but they help ensure that you're considering more than convenience. As someone with a legal background, I've learned that something can be legal and it can still raise ethical concerns. Effective leaders understand that ethics often require us to aim higher than simply meeting the minimum legal standard. You don't want to just hit the minimum, you want to shoot for the stars. So, one of the best habits leaders can develop is they can follow a consistent decision-making process. First, you need to identify the problem. Second, you need to gather as many facts as possible. Third, Identify everyone who could be affected. Fourth, evaluate possible options. Fifth, make the best possible decision available. Sixth, communicate that decision clearly. And finally, evaluate the outcome and ask what lessons can be learned. This process doesn't eliminate difficult decisions, but it helps prevent emotional or impulsive decision making. One lesson I learned in both education and governance is that slowing down long enough to gather information can often improve the quality of your decision. Sometimes the most effective leadership action is asking one more question before acting. And there are some common decision-making traps for leaders. And, even experienced leaders can make mistakes. These traps are acting too quickly, ignoring information that contradicts our assumptions, listening only to people who agree with us, allowing emotions to replace evidence, believing that because we've handled a similar situation before, this situation must be identical. These mistakes occur because leaders are human. The best leaders recognize these biases and intentionally work to overcome them. One thing I've tried to practice throughout my own career is surrounding myself with people who aren't afraid to respectfully disagree. A healthy organization encourages thoughtful discussion before any important decisions are made. So, leadership during critical incidents. Critical incidents test every aspect of leadership. During a crisis, employees are watching. During a crisis, the public is watching. The media is watching. Importantly, community leaders are watching. Your response becomes part of the organization's reputation. Effective leaders remain visible. They communicate honestly. They support their employees. They follow established policies. They maintain professionalism even under intense scrutiny. Perhaps most importantly, they remember that people are looking to them for stability. Calm leadership often creates calm organizations. How do we maintain ethical leadership during a crisis? Some of the most important leadership decisions happen after the incident itself, such as the decision of how do we communicate? How transparent should we be? How do we support our employees while maintaining accountability? How do we preserve public trust? I've learned through public service that trust is often strengthened when leaders communicate honestly about what they know, and equally honestly about what they don't know. People generally understand that investigations take time. What damages trust is pretending to have answers before the facts are available. Transparency does not mean rushing to conclusions. It means communicating responsibly throughout the entire process. Here's a criminal justice scenario. Let's imagine you're the watch commander. An officer-involved shooting has just occurred. The media, nowadays, they arrive within minutes. Community members are gathering near the scene, and your officers are emotional. Rumors are already spreading on the internet. Where do you begin? So most new leaders focus immediately on the media. Experienced leaders often begin somewhere else. They secure the scene. They ensure everyone's safety. They activate investigative procedures. They support the involved personnel, very important. They gather verified facts. And then, after they've done all of that, they communicate what can responsibly be shared. Leadership during crisis isn't about appearing confident. It's about disciplined decisions. So here's a leadership reflection. Throughout my career, I've discovered that leadership often means making decisions without perfect information. In a perfect world, we would know everything, but that just doesn't happen. Whether I'm serving students, managing academic programs, participating in governance, or working in the field, there have been many situations where every option I am faced with involves a trade-off. Those experiences have reinforced something I believe strongly. Leadership is not always about having the right answer. It's about approaching every decision with integrity, humility, preparation, and a willingness to accept responsibility. Good leaders don't avoid accountability. They model it. And that's a lesson that applies to every criminal justice organization. So let's connect today's lesson to our broader course outcomes. Leadership decisions directly influence ethical policing. They shape officer morale. They affect operational effectiveness. They build or damage community trust. And they determine whether organizations remain accountable during difficult moments. Every leadership decision sends a message about organizational values. And that's why decision making is one of the most important leadership skills you will ever develop. So, some key takeaways from today. Today, we've learned that leadership is ultimately demonstrated through decisions. Ethical decision making requires preparation. Strong leaders gather facts before acting. They communicate honestly. They remain accountable. And they continue learning from every experience. Perhaps the most important lesson is this: leadership isn't about making easy decisions. It is about making responsible decisions. So, as you continue developing your own leadership philosophy, I'd like you to remember one simple idea. Every difficult decision is an opportunity to demonstrate your character. People may forget the exact words you used. They may even forget the details of the situation. But they will remember whether you acted with integrity. That's the kind of leadership criminal justice organizations need. In our next lecture, we'll build on today's discussion by exploring one of the most important leadership skills of all: communication and de-escalation. I'll see you in video 7.